Hello, my name is Moni Nakano and today we'll be talking about American culture. When it comes to American culture, the main idea that everyone accepts, or the main theory everyone accepts, is David Hackett Fisher's theory that four groups of people from England came into America and have since then immigrated and have adapted to American standards. And this is different from the European or English ways of culture and theory. With these new cultures that came into America, the four groups, a lot of the characteristics have been created within the state. These key characteristics made by David Hackett Fisher were called ways, such as speech ways, building ways, family ways, and all these ways have a general consensus of what kind of personality traits or what kind of cultures would ultimately define America on their views. For this specific aviation, the main three ways that I consider to within the job is the work, social, and power ways that are respectively defining how Americans perceive the three. When it comes to the American social ways, a lot of these immigrants actually left England because of the king and its tyranny, so they don't like the idea of a hierarchy symbol. They don't like how if there's a king, that king will actually rule over them. So they tend to resent the idea of someone or some power that will tell them off and to tell them to do certain stuff. However, since they have left England because of this, they did result in making their own government and their own ideals, and the power is usually divided equally amongst Americans, leading towards democracy. Latter to the social idea, when it comes to power, Americans actually enjoy and succumb to power when it comes in the form of demonstration. Once a person has shown and demonstrated that they are willing and able to control the power well, they tend to follow the advice or follow the rules that these people that have demonstrated power. However, the demonstration is vital in terms of American culture. Many Americans that came from England were actually very poor, and they did not have very nice lifestyles as well as jobs. A lot of their jobs were around farming, and this caused a lot of disease, and they didn't really have the opportunity to step up into the inside the job market. So this led to them staying in very poor household incomes. Now this has two variations that led towards Americans today. One is continue progress and continue working hard, and the latter is some of them just tend to give up a bit more quickly, but this does depend on how they were brought up. Now when it comes to aviation, in terms of these power, work, and social constructs, it can be said that when it comes to the co-pilot and the co-pilot will respect the pilot's instructions due to his demonstration of power and earning the pilot rank, and however, the co-pilot will be able to say whatever he feels like saying because of their social construct. Now when it comes to the work ethic within the aviation industry, many of them are forced to be the prior rather than the latter of giving up. So these people would continue to work hard, however there may be some outliers, and this can be seen through data. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will enjoy the next culture we will present.
The Asian culture in aviation can be traced back to as early as 1046 BC on how Asians governed their countries, while the American ideology is that of equality and democracy as mentioned by Monet. Asian culture performs on the other spectrum of it, leading to what we know as hierarchy. Hierarchy is defined as a system in which people or things are arranged according to their importance, and during the ancient times back then, Chinese empires known as dynasty strictly followed the ranking order among the social classes of the people. Now, this system consists mainly of four classes: the king, or what they know as emperor, the upper class, middle class, and lower class. The emperor was the most powerful person in the kingdom and hires others to work for him. He also gave them decisions and orders of which all other classes have to obey and abide. Basically, in the hierarchy system, some groups will have power and authority over one another. Asian culture of hierarchy has a deeply ingrained root metaphor, which is to always follow one's superior's order and not to question them. And while the modern era is currently much less like not being executed for insubordination back then in the ancient era, traces of this metaphor still lingers around today's society, and this is a potential problem for aviation. Now let me give you an example. If a king is able to work with his subordinates, he is able to lead the country well. If not, he leads his country to ruins. Now try putting that into the context of a cockpit with a captain as being the king and the first officer as being the subordinate, and you kind of get the idea. By having such a high authority power for a captain, first officer here would be afraid to voice out his opinion, and things can be pretty deadly if the captain here makes mistakes. That's probably what happened to Korean Air Flight 801, where the captain made the decision to land despite Junior's first officer in disagreement, eventually bringing the plane down short of the runway, highlighting how this hierarchy system can hinder communication and affect safety. Korea is such an example that takes hierarchy seriously. As Malcolm Gladwell said, what Korean Air went wrong was not because of old planes nor badly trained pilots, but a cultural legacy. Korean culture is hierarchical. You're obliged to be deferential towards your elders and superiors in a way that would be unimaginable in the US. Fortunately, Korean Air figured out that problem and they fixed it. We can see that this Asian culture hierarchy plays a factor in safety. Now, crew resource management have pretty much scrutinized this ideology, abandoning the traditional captain is God airline hierarchy. CRM emphasizes teamwork and communication among the crew and has since become industry-wide standards, which of course Korean Air has followed. Even then, culture is still something that is not very easily dismissed, and only time will tell if Asian culture in aviation has changed for the better. I hope you enjoyed this speech, and my name is Kenneth Chin. I'll be passing on my presentation or speech, to the next person. Bye.
Safety is of paramount importance to the public, but also to the aviation industry. Just culture has a direct impact on lowering incidents and preventing aircraft accidents. The EU supports the just culture in aviation by using strategies to improve safety for passengers and relies on a reactive system that looks at accident and incident causes to avoid their reoccurrence. Safety in aviation is taken seriously and considered a priority in Europe, and there are many positives to the overall aviation safety culture, including increased flight hours for pilots, successful training, and connecting with international networks. However, studies on the European aviation industry surveyed over 7,000 pilots from across European nations and found that half of airline pilots reported that fatigue is not taken seriously by airlines. This is something that has been addressed. The European Commissioner for Transport said, "The safety of European citizens is at the heart of the Commission's transport policy. By making just culture a reality and addressing the negative findings that arise, will strengthen our global leadership in aviation safety." Culture in the aviation industry is also about uniting and embracing different cultures in order to enhance the safety of the industry and grow the international aviation market. International cooperation is essential to network safety and to the development of global agreement standards. The EU aviation industry embraces the international cooperation by strengthening aviation safety at the international level through negotiation of safety agreements with key partnerships. An example is the unique partnership between Etihad and Italy's flag carrier Alitalia. This partnership embraces the Middle Eastern and European cultures, connecting passengers from all over the world to these communities. Positives of this partnership include accepting of multicultural differences, enhancing experiences for passengers, and connecting different cultural communities with many different parts of the world. For example, connecting the Italian-Australian communities. Australians can travel to Italy easily through Abu Dhabi with Etihad Airlines, and then using partner airline Alitalia to get to key cities around Italy. The partnerships also serves the global market, creating an enhanced network to Abu Dhabi to capitalize on growing traffic between Italy and the UAE. providing Alitaalia's passengers with seamless connectivity to Etihad's global network. A negative aspect would be the biggest problem, which is the potential language barriers between flight crew, passengers, and ATC. This could have a huge impact on safety and the success of the airlines.
As part of the aviation culture, tourism is one of the highlights of this industry, which has a huge impact on economic growth. The aviation industry supports $2.7 trillion, which is 3.5% of the world's gross domestic product. The Middle East is the world's fastest growing airline industry, with the highest growth in terms of new airline and passenger capacity. The region contains years of impressive history in the aviation industry, linking east to west, and now has become a time of transmission, adapting to many cultural changes and shifting global commercial pilots. Emirates Airline being one of the major international players of the region. The Middle East culture mainly focuses on tourism. Dubai is the most popular destination for tourism and hub for all tourist activities in the Middle East. Emirates Airline is based in Dubai, a major tourism destination. In 2014, Emirates Airline and the Dubai Airport's aviation and tourism sector contributed $26.7 billion to Dubai's economy, making up 27% of its GDP, and supported 416,500 jobs, or the 21% of the Emirates' employment. This was reported by UK think tank Oxford Economics. Meanwhile, Dubai is planning to become a mega hub by capitalizing on its position between Europe, Asia, and the growing market of Africa. Considering all the benefits of aviation tourism culture, which leave a significant impact and increase foreign investment, enabling Dubai to generate revenue and further expansion. However, this can all leave a negative impact on environment, pollution, traffic congestion, and many other factors.
Australian culture is divided into 6 parts. First is the power distance. Australia has a low power distance, which means hierarchy is established for convenience. Communication between those in power and the subordinates is informal, direct, and participative. Subordinates are more likely to contribute and critique the decisions of those in power. Second, individualism. Australia has a high score as it has a highly individualist culture. The term used is loosely knit society. People are expected to look after themselves and their families. In an organization, employees are expected to be self-sufficient, displaying initiative. Decisions of hiring and promotion are done based on evidence of what one has done and can do. Third, masculinity. The score of 61 is considered that Australia is a masculine society. Striving to be the best and winner takes it all are the values shared amongst people in an organization. Fourth, uncertainty avoidance. This dimension is intermediate. Fifth, long-term orientation. According to the scores, Australia has a normative culture. People in such society have strong concerns with establishing the absolute truth. They exhibit great respect for tradition. Employees have relatively small tendency to save for the future and focus on achieving quick results. Sixth, indulgence. Australia is an indulgent country, meaning people exhibit willingness to realize their instincts and desires regarding enjoying life and having fun. They possess a positive attitude and have tendency towards optimism. They place more importance on leisure time. All these aspects have played role in Qantas's safety culture. Qantas has been rated world's safest airline. This shows that Qantas has a strong safety culture. Employees are not afraid to pinpoint faults, which later on would result in an accident. As employees are self-sufficient, they take initiative and eliminate all the hazards around them. The employees strive to put safety first and then continue their operation.
The international airline has one of the most complex organizational culture. The term international itself suggests the political and ethnic diversity as well as social issues that may need to be taken into consideration when designing any policy. There is also the requirement of maintaining products and services of uniform quality irrespective to the market setting. The knowledge of cultural dimension is priceless in mitigating risk, containing costs, and improving corporate effectiveness. For many years now, the issues of safety and profit in aviation have been a concern and highly forced to deal with a long-standing dilemma. In theory, there should be a positive correlation between the two, where a safe airline should be a profitable airline and a profitable airline should be a safe one. According to Robert Heinrich, a professor at University of Texas Aerospace Crew Research Project, says effective efforts to achieve safety must recognize the importance of culture. The organization must have an understanding of the cultural influences on their operations if safety efforts are to succeed. It is essential to build on the strength of national culture and to enhance professional and organizational cultures to establish a robust safety culture. The documented processes, safety equipment, standard operating procedures, and certified training programs are utilized might be perceived as pure administrative. In reality, they are reflected upon years of experience, billions of flight hours, and a significant number of past accident analysis. Captain's leadership, commitment to comply with the rules, clear tasks sharing, open communication, appropriate level of risk awareness related to each task and phase of flight, error management, and ability to listen and to actively look for information to make safe decisions are all observant evidence that we see and say that we have an appointment through. However, for pilots, there are three main cultures dominant in shaping actions and attitudes to consider. It is national culture, professional culture, and the organization culture that they must work under and are closer to the daily activities of the team member. While national cultures are highly resistant to change because they surround an individual from birth, professional and organization cultures may be modified through strong incentives. These cultures are important in the cockpit as it has influence in the critical behavior. It impacts strongly on how juniors relate to the seniors and how information is shared. Furthermore, these cultures shape attitudes about stress and personal capabilities. Each of the three cultures have its strengths and weaknesses. The strengths enhance safety and the weaknesses diminish it. Results based on extensive research show that organizations, when asked about their policies towards ensuring safety, consider the responsibility of employees to be more important than implementing effective safety management systems and encouraging positive safety culture. But the latter should be actively established prior to forming the policy of an organization because the pilot is a member of a crew, a group that in return is reflected by factors such as professional social norms and a certain corporate culture.